also go to sidebartv.com and get on social media to watch during the show and after the show. And while you're at sidebartv.com, please consider becoming a contributor to the show. It takes tons of money, and I say tons because I really do mean it. We want you to be part of the show, but we also want to continue the show, and we would love for you to consider contributing to the show. Hey, it was a really historic week in the Middle East, wasn't it? But I guess it wasn't historic enough for the Nobel Committee. I wanted to ask a question because I haven't read anything. Does that government shutdown continue? I guess it's still on. Nobody's talking about that in the news right now. At least I haven't heard anything.
Let the drama continue.
Yeah. A grand jury indicted New York's Attorney General, but the Attorney General candidate in Virginia embroiled in this huge, violent text message scandal. And finally, Houston, I guess it's reported that Houston has now got the largest Muslim population in the state of Texas and in the entire southern United States, with an estimated 3% of that city's population being Muslim. What kind of foothold is being taken in Texas? Are we safe? How is that going to turn out? What are lawmakers doing to try and remedy what may be happening? These are some of the topics we're going to be talking about every week when you come here. You're going to be listening to the former Bexar County DA, Nico LaHood, trial lawyer, which I want to ask you about your trial, managing partner of LaHood Norton Law Group, and George Araujo, scholar, former chemist, pharmaceutical researcher, and director. I do want to talk about the rules for the Nobel Peace Prize, because I want to know, like, did they miss a deadline and getting nominated, President Trump nominated, because he did a few things that might be considered peaceful. But before we start, I wanted to say, Nico, you're wearing a suit today. And I wanted to know, does that have anything to do with your trial? And I understand that your trial has started. I'm so sad that I missed the opening statements. What's going on?
You can watch it. It's on KSAT. They're live streaming it, so you can go back and watch it. I think George watched it, and some other folks have watched it. I don't watch. I'm in it, so I don't need to go back and watch it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you know, it's. I get when I get in trial, I get in trial mode. You know, to me, it's like a fight because you're fighting for someone. I'm that any DA's office would try to prosecute law enforcement officers for lawfully exercising authority to arrest someone. And then they're taking the position, literally, that they're taking the position that deadly force can be used against a law enforcement officer for lawful duties. Now, they're claiming their duties were unlawful, but we have a remedy for that. It's called a courtroom. You know, you have motions to suppress. You have, you know, you can file grievances, whatever it is. I mean, we believe our guys are completely innocent. This is horrible. It would be horrible for law enforcement. It would turn this city into Gotham if law enforcement officers are in fear of being prosecuted every time that they have to do something to protect a third person or themselves or this community. And look, I hold government accountable every day. You know, George knows that. I mean, I take the position that government, you know, needs to be held in accountants and needs to be wielded in, and I'm all for that. But I'm also for the institution of law enforcement. And I supported that when I was DA. I prosecuted when they were wrong, and I supported them when they were right. And I had a law enforcement integrity unit. But what's happening to these men, in my humble opinion and my co-counsel's opinion, passionate opinion, by the way, we got pretty heated yesterday, is that this is, in my opinion, it's immoral. This is my opinion. And I think it's unethical. It's terrible what they're doing to these men. And so we're going to fight. It's going to be a three-week trial. Their theory is insane. Experts that have been in this field for years are saying this is an insane theory. And the reason why I can talk about this is because the jury's been sat.
Okay.
There's nothing there's not inappropriate influence. They've been instructed by Judge Rangel, who's an excellent judge, but he said, look, don't listen to any media, don't watch any media, don't talk to anybody about this. So I am, no jurors should be talking about this or hearing this program. So yeah, it's going to be a dogfight, but our guys are completely innocent. They're good officers, and it's unfortunate they're going through this.
It's crazy. You watched it, George. You watched it on KSAT. I didn't even get a chance.
I watched the opening for both. It was courtroom drama, baby. Hey, listen, I gotta put a plug in for this guy here. I watched. Here's what Nico did that I think was very effective, and I recommend everybody go to ksat.com and watch it. What I think is very effective, and I'm not a courtroom drama guy, but what I thought was really effective is that he put the jury at the scene of the crime.
Of the allegations.
Excuse me,
no crime.
At the scene of the allegations, and you took them step by step. What the officers did, what they didn't do, what the now deceased did, and it was captivating. I mean, because that's always the question: what exactly happened? How did things go down? I don't know if someone can you have an objection in the middle of an opening argument?
Yes, you can.
Okay, and I thought that would have been a really great time to point out if you had been erroneous in your presentation of the facts, and I didn't hear a peep. Not one objection from
You don't object during opening statements for erroneous facts. You just prove during the trial that they're erroneous. You object to argumentative. Like this is not opening statements. This is closing, because you can't make a conclusion in an opening. But you always push the
and
envelope.
at one point, Jason Goss was objected on, and he said he's like, I'll rephrase, and so he rephrased it. So you're saying they can't object if they
only to argumentative,
erroneous presentation of the facts. But what I thought was effective is that the jury got, it seems to me, a front row seat. And I didn't know the details until Nico had presented them. So I thought that was very, very effective. And he engaged the prosecution at the same time. And you basically presented that you felt that the presentation of the facts from the prosecution was rather selective.
They were. This is selective prosecution. It was selective presentation of the facts. And well, I'll reserve my comments.
You called them inconvenient. They left out the inconvenient facts. So anyway,
we'll see.
I always try to listen to things that you say, Nico, and have said in the past. And I've likened you from the beginning, like to Trump, to President Trump. And you're going to say, what the heck are you talking about? He has
better hair than I do.
He was never afraid from the beginning to call out the truth. He was never afraid because he loved America. So when reporters started asking him, you're just trying to get peace, or you're trying to get a ceasefire in the Middle East so that you can get the Nobel Peace Prize. And he was like, what? I just want peace. I don't want, people dead. I want peace there because that's just in my heart. And I think to myself, you go into these trials so passionately because you want to get justice for innocent people. And so when somebody says, oh, you're just going in that courtroom because you want to put on a show, you want to do this, I mean, does that make you feel like, why would I be doing this for that reason?
Well, I mean, you can't worry about what other people say. I mean, I'm playing for an audience of one. If the Lord tells me that in His ways, then I'm gonna course correct. I can't worry about what other people say. I know my intentions. I mean, I'm happy to be in the front, in the back, on the side, wherever. I just want to be obedient to my calling and my purpose in this world. But I have a visceral response. I mean, it's part of my DNA. I hate injustice. I don't hate a lot of things. I'm a Christ follower, so I hate what God hates. I love what He loves, and I hold sacred what He holds sacred. In Proverbs 6:16, gives me guidance on what I should hate. And God hates lies. He hates feet that are quick to run to evil. He hates the spilling of innocent blood, which would be murder. There's never justification for murder. And he hates dissension and factions and so just read Proverbs 6:16 and if you want to get that. And so I hate injustice. I hated it when I was DA, and that's why I set up the office the way I felt it was supposed to be run. I hate it as a defense attorney. And look, in injustice, remember, justice has three aspects. Number one is the government pointing the finger at the right person. Number two, did they get there the right way? Even if they're pointing the finger at the right person, but they break the rules to go after the guy or girl that breaks the rules, that's kind of weird. So it's okay when you break the rules, but not when I break the rules. All right, whatever. Do as I say, not as I do. And then three, is the outcome, meaning the punishment or the accountability, proportionate for the infraction? So if somebody steals a car, should they go to prison for the rest of their life? No. You understand my point?
Yeah.
So there has to be, it's called metered justice. And if you don't have all three aspects of that, then you don't have justice. Everybody gets stuck on the first one, but I'm focused on all three. And so is, I believe, God. I mean, that's why, He has grace and there's redemption and all kinds of things. But so that's it. So yeah, it's part of my DNA. Let the chips fall where they may. I'm wired differently. I pray for wisdom. I do. One of my strengths is my passion and fearlessness, and one of my weaknesses could probably be my passion and my fearlessness. And so I pray for that temperance, right, and for the Holy Spirit to guide me. So yeah, this is a righteous fight, and so pray for us, and we're gonna fight and see what the Lord says at the end.
So we found out this week who Maria Corina Machado is, and I'm wondering still, was it political? What, could President Trump have gotten this Nobel Peace Prize?
Well,
I mean, Obama got one before he did anything.
Well, then if Obama got it, then anybody can get it. So I know we have a couple of minutes before,
Yes, we do.
break, and so just tell me when I need to stop. But I had to look up the history. I was like, who gives a crap about the Nobel Peace Prize?
Right.
But the history, and George will correct me because he's our historian, our local historian, Alfred Nobel. He was a chemist who invented nitroglycerin, right, dynamite. And what I read and studied is he felt guilty about it eventually once he saw what it was used for. So what I don't know if this is true, George. I mean, I think it is true. Is his brother passed away, and a paper in London ran an obituary that was already filled out for him on him by accident, and it wasn't flattering. I mean, so he read this obituary and said, "This is my legacy. This is what people think about me." So he established the Nobel Foundation. Before he died, he instituted the Peace Prize in 1901. So this has gone back for over 100 years. And he did this to salvage his legacy of being the merchant of modern warfare type deal. And I know you when you go to break. And so there's different aspects to it in Norway and who's on it and their left-leaning people and who got the Nobel Peace Prize. We can talk about that when we get back from break.
So you're saying it doesn't mean crap?
To me, it doesn't. I mean, I'm not going to lose any sleep over
we
it.
are going to take a break right now, but we will be back with more on Sidebar.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
1200 WOAI. Please join us on social media. We stream live during the show and after the show, which is really fun. That's when everybody lets loose, right? No, everybody but me, because I try to behave.
You just said crap, Karen.
Oh, yeah, that's right, I did.
How dare you.
Okay, well, so let's comment about this, because some say that he didn't get the Nobel Prize, or the Nobel Prize, as some would say, because deadlines have to be reached on who's nominated. Maybe good luck next year. Other people said there was never even a chance anyway. So why are people talking about it?
When Yasser Arafat gets the Nobel Peace Prize for not for making peace, for just stop killing people, I mean, that tells you something. Henry Kissinger got the Nobel Peace Prize. He's no Prince of Peace.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess. No, Obama got it. What did Obama do? He got it for being Obama.
Yeah.
I mean, so what does it really mean ultimately? I get it's kind of this claim to fame, and look. Probably Trump, his personality, he just wants it because he's in that genre and that genre. It means nothing to me, even though I'm old enough for it should mean something to me. But I've been shown over the years it means nothing.
But did you think he really tried to get the ceasefire going because he thought that he might win it, or is that what he wanted to do?
Let's not kid ourselves. He wants the Nobel Peace Prize. He wants that on his mantle. He just does. I mean, that's his personality.
On his mantle.
I mean, right? I mean, he does. I mean,
I know.
In my opinion, he does. But I don't think he's doing the ceasefire because of it. I mean, I think he truly wants peace, and he has shown that over and over again by all the other in wars or potential wars that he's gotten involved in. You know.
I mean, the guy's been. If we're just talking about brokering peace, I mean, I don't know anyone is more suitable for the award than him. Say what you want about Trump. I mean, it's not like that's been surreptitious. I mean, he's been actively involved in that. I mean, Thailand, Cambodia, and then of course brokering an arrangement between a nuclear-armed India and Pakistan. I mean, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, as I mentioned, Rwanda, between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and of course this with Gaza. I mean, it's been one thing after another. He deserves credit for that. Truly does. And so that's why I think it's fitting that the person who did win And we could probably spend an hour on the stuff that you were talking about, Nico, separately. The Nobel, it's been a joke for many years. I mean, you went way back to Yasser Arafat, but there's been, I mean, at least that was a peace arrangement. But there's just been nonsense. I mean, I think the one that I think was ludicrous. I remember it was in 2007 when they awarded it to the International Panel on Climate Change.
Oh.
Right, and then they ended up splitting it with Al Gore, right? And of course, Barack Obama wins it, as Nico said. For what? Because he won an election. And Trump actually elaborated and said, yeah, because he won an election and destroyed our country, so they gave him the Nobel Peace Prize.
He said that?
He got a Nobel Peace Prize for destroying our country. Wonderful. So, and in the end, this kind of suits Trump, if you think about it. He said, you see, the deck's stacked against me internationally. Because that's been a mantra for him. And there's not a serious person who doesn't agree with that. This is a left-wing cabal of individuals, and so they've neutered really the life's work of Alfred Nobel. So that's unfortunate. However, what a silver lining, right? So Maria Corina Machado in Venezuela, she's the chief opposition leader to the murderously socialist Venezuelan dictator, Nicolas Maduro. Just want to point out that every political party in Venezuela is socialistic, with the exception of hers. Hers is center-right. And she's been spending years cleaning her party of socialist elements. What I think is fascinating, truly fascinating, is that you basically have a joust inside Venezuela between one brand of socialism and the brand that'll kill you. But no matter what, they're all socialistic.
Hard choice there.
And if you implement their policies, it leads to nothing but, popular misery. And so she's been kind of a lone warrior in the sense that she's truly been, shall we say, as close to conservative as you can possibly imagine. And she's been fighting the good fight, genuinely so, for years. I mean, this woman has truly suffered. She was, I guess, analogous to a congresswoman, part of their legislature, and she was harassed and persecuted. In fact, they kicked her out. He did. He kicked her out.
Without an election.
They brought up some, no pun intended, trumped-up charges. No, without an election. She was a duly elected, democratically elected member of the legislature in Venezuela, and they found some sort of financial mismanagement, which was found then to be a sham. And then he banned her from running for office for 12 months, and that 12 months was extended to 15 years. And so she's basically not able to run for office until 2030.
I mean, over there, they can kill you.
Yeah.
And they have. And there's been people who've been disappeared, others who are in jail, and so on and on and on. And so in 2024 was the last sham election for Maduro. And it was found, they documented this, and I won't bore you with the details, that it was truly a landslide loss for Maduro.
Wow.
And he ended up basically going after his political opponent. She couldn't run, so she picked the next best, and Edmund Gonzalez is an elderly statesman. And in the end, the man had to leave because he was under threat for his life. So this is the environment in Venezuela, and so at least it's a good choice. But I think what is interesting is that she turns around, wins it, and credits Trump.
Yeah, and that was.
I mean, and the Venezuelan
gracious,
people, of course, but she credits Trump for, for his hard work on really going after what is truly an evil regime in Venezuela. Look, inflation of 1,600%. Try affording a single egg if you eat eggs. It is a. I can't say it on the radio, can I, Karen?
No,
but
just
it is
whatever
an
it is,
absolute disaster over there. So good for her. I hope she continues to prosper. I think it's telling that she credited Trump, gives credit where credit is due, and the Nobel Committee is really rather worthless. I mean, it's one giant
It is
at this point. It's unfortunate.
Did you say Nobel?
Well, Noble.
The Nobel.
Oh, they said no ball committee. Oh, that's fun.
That's actually quite.
George is getting creative. That's pretty good.
And my crap
mind
was
working.
that?
I'd have to put an S on the end of
No
that
ball
to make it really work.
committee. You don't get credit for that joke then, George.
Okay, so will Trump get it next year? I know it's a funny question. But
Look, if the Gaza deal goes through, it just started. It's phase one.
Hasn't he ended a few other wars recently?
Yeah, but look, I don't know. Look, this lady seems like deserving, right? I mean, so good for her.
Yes, I mean, if somebody's going to get it because they've picked some really crazy people. Give it to her. Good, because it shines a light on the things she's doing. She's doing good things.
I'm more interested to talk about the Gaza quote-unquote deal in phase one because I've been in trial and prepping for trial all week.
I want to hear about it too.
That I've just had to try to catch up, so I might have missed something. But I understand that 275 life sentence terrorists are going to be released as part of this deal. 1,700 detained Palestinians or Gazans or whatever, for whatever reason they were detained for, are going to be released as well. Israel gets the hostages back, remains of hostages, and information where other hostages were disposed of, which that's interesting. You know, but here's the part that I guess interests me more than all that, is that there's this alleged international peacekeeping force of yes, Arab countries as well, but it includes 300 U.S. soldiers, and that's where you get my attention. I don't want 300 U.S. soldiers over there.
Yeah.
You know, and so that bothers me, to be honest with you. I don't know what they're there for. If the Arab countries can do it and other people should do it, they should do it. I don't know. In all fairness, I don't know what positions they're going to be in. Are they going to be in the front lines, making sure that things go smoothly? God forbid there's a suicide bombing, which conveniently brings the U.S. into a battle. I don't want that, because, you know, the argument and the criticism, one of many, by the way, that people say against Israel is that they're trying to drag us into their wars and drag us. Well, you kill some of our troops with our president. Yeah. We're getting into conflict, and I don't want that. And I understand, you know, combat and death, and I don't want that new normal for any of our soldiers. Look, if we have to defend ourselves and there's a legitimate war we have to get into, I'm all in it. Strap it up and let's go, and then pray for them. But I don't want our troops and our men and women protecting any other. I mean, on the boots on the ground, any other country. I mean, that's just kind of my starting position.
Yeah, I read the number being like 200, but we shouldn't even have 10.
Yeah,
I mean, not for that. It depends on the capacity. I mean, they're there for the logistical support of Israeli forces. Oh, okay, all right. You know, I mean, because there's a lot of innuendo on social media about what Israel's actually doing. So that could end up being a positive thing, as long as it's clearly understood that there's no military engagement. You know, we don't know the particulars of that. Look, for me, the thing that matters the most, it seems to me, and that I'm very skeptical about, is whether Hamas will disarm.
Wow, that's
sort of the crux of the issue here. Look, Israel is already withdrawing, and they've already partially withdrawn from Gaza, and the clock started as soon as they began withdrawing, and so Hamas has 72 hours from the time they start withdrawing to releasing the hostages, some 48 hostages. So the question is that going to happen? And I
think
it's
the logistics, George? Because to me, if I'm helping negotiating this, number one, I would want to know how do you exchange 275 plus 1,700 at the same time you get your and then who's going to switch together? I mean, at the same time, and what's going to happen? That logistics, number one. Number two, I don't pretend to say that I would be a better prime minister than anybody, but I mean, I would say, look, this seems imbalanced, and I'll agree to this with an understanding that if you violate this peace agreement, there's no more negotiations. We are going to obliterate everyone around you. Yeah. And this is where I think Israel, don't pretend, because everybody's looking at Gaza and it's like, how could Israel do this? And we can talk about Israel another time if you want to, because I have my criticisms and I have my support in different issues. But what you have to say, if you violate this in any way, it's not even going to be a discussion. It's going to be a tenfold response to whatever you do. I mean, and say, look, I'm just in full disclosure, we are releasing 275 life-sentenced terrorists that has a lot of Israeli, and if they did this to America, blood on their hands. And then I don't know what the 1,700 are detained for, but it's for whatever reasons. I'm just saying, you're letting people out that have this desire to kill you more. Yep. 270, one of them was too many. 275. I mean, for me, this is my humble opinion, and I'm you can have yours. I would put that condition in there with everyone involved. I'm telling everyone right now, are you sure you want this deal? Because if you violate this, and here's the conditions of violation, by the way, it's not just my opinion. Here's how you would violate. Then it's going to be tenfold response. And unapologetic, I'm not going to ask for permission. This is what's going to happen to you. And whoever's around you, innocent or not, they're done. I mean, that's just me. I mean, because that's a lot of blood on these terrorists' hands. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know something.
The consequences are harsh. They really are.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, they
okay,
are.
Good. Okay,
and Trump's been saying that from,
But the consequences, who does the consequences? We don't. Do we get involved in it?
Israel does,
okay,
right?
Good.
Okay.
All right.
And it's, I really hope it doesn't go down that road. It has traditionally, and so it's a legitimate question. I mean, I don't have any confidence whatsoever that Hamas is going to disarm. I don't see it.
I can't see that either.
And then the idea of the Palestinian, some sort of Palestinian authority replacing Hamas rule, that's code for Hamas. I mean, that's going to be hollowed out very quickly with Hamas influence, unless you exterminate every single one. And I use that word very deliberately. These people are subhuman. They really are. They live, they thrive for the decimation of human beings.
But then why do you release 275 of them?
No, I understand.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think that's a great idea. I don't at all. There's really no equity here. There isn't.
But then why would they agree to any of it in
we
the
don't
beginning?
know for sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One, it's you actually stop the fighting, and so you've got tens of thousands of people that are lost their lives. So that's a positive. Two, the condition is to disarm, not to allow Hamas to go and reload and then to just start things over again as if it's, like you said, it's not business as usual.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal. And then, of course, the release of the hostages, that's a big deal, which the American media says it really cared about. All of a sudden, the American media seems to be really silent. They don't seem to be too jubilant about what's happening. I don't really see a lot of celebration from CNN and MSNBC and ABC. I really don't. I would expect to see parties in the streets.
Well,
There has been a scattering
Where's the
of
celebration
Democrats
from the American media? I mean,
someone sent me a clip, but I didn't watch it till later. But where I guess on one of the shows, the left-leaning shows, they gave Trump credit.
Yes.
They said, "Look,
There have been a
Biden
scattering.
couldn't have done this. That somebody, that he did it, and good for them." I mean, I think
I'm sure there is one somewhere. Yes, that is true.
But doesn't it basically feel like they're just waiting for it to all fall apart? That's what it felt like to me.
Well, I'm just saying. This is what Hamas has always done. They are a murderous cult. They live for the destruction of human beings. They've professed as much.
Yeah.
This is what they have done. There's no mystery here. This isn't. It's not like let's have a conversation and say, I wonder what Hamas is about.
Okay.
I wonder there's no such mystery here. So I don't see where the path here is successful. But let's see what happens.
We are taking a break right now, but stick with us and get on social media. We'll be right back with more on Sidebar.
San Antonio's news, weather, traffic, plus breaking news 24/7. This is News Radio 1200 WOAI from the GiveMeTheVin.com Sell Us Your Cars studio.
I'm Eric Lankum at News Radio 1200 WOAI. Trump administration officials say China made a huge mistake with their new export controls. Details coming up first. Traffic and weather together.
The WOAI Traffic Center.
Looks like a 30-minute traffic delay on the northeast side due to some road construction, blocking the left lane on southbound 35 between O'Connor and Thousand Oaks. Then also some road constructions blocking the left lane on eastbound Loop 1604 between Redland Road and Bulverde with a 5-minute delay. I'm Carson Parnell, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
On our way to 93, sunny 79 now. The WOAI 24-hour weather center. Our top story. President Trump retaliating against China by threatening a 100% additional tariff on imports from China beginning November 1st. This comes after the Asian nation's implementation of new export controls on rare earth minerals. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer tells Fox.
This is a move clearly that they had in their pocket for a long time, and they thought that it was an appropriate time to deploy it before this meeting. And I think they've really miscalculated what they've done here.
San Antonio police have arrested a man who got shot causing a disturbance at a Southside Whataburger overnight, and they're looking for his accomplice. SAPD says the man was asked to leave the fast food restaurant at South I-35 and Division Avenue, but came back with another 46-year-old man around 2:25 a.m. who allegedly pulled out a gun, threatened a security guard who shot him multiple times. He'll be charged with assault with a deadly weapon. News on demand at WOAI.com. Breaking information as it happens. I'm Eric Lankum on San Antonio's news, weather, and traffic station, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
This report is sponsored by Aleve. Life doesn't wait, and neither should you. Aleve can help you deal with pain less throughout your day. With just one pill, Aleve lasts up to 12 hours. Don't let those aches and pains hold you back from doing what's important to you. Use as directed.
WOAI. This is Sidebar. One of the things that you both have said since day one on talking about Hamas is they don't negotiate. That's it. They don't negotiate. So my question then is, with this agreement that is in place, what's going to happen when Hamas goes back on their signing the paper to a ceasefire and blah, blah, because, I mean, Did they negotiate? Did they sign on the dotted line to say we're going to be good?
But there are questions. That's why it's phased. I mean, as Nico and I were kind of chatting here a little bit, it's not specified in the agreement. In the event that Hamas recommences hostilities, it does seem the agreement just kind of seems to be arguing from silence. In other words, if Hamas does what it does, which I think it will, then I think you're going to see a resumption of hostilities. And Netanyahu has said as much. He's been pretty explicit about that if Hamas violates the terms of the agreement, that we can do this the easy way or we can do it the hard way. He says, so and then so you have this prisoner exchange, you have the release of the hostages, and then you have this multinational stabilization force, whatever they call it, that the United States is supposed to facilitate. It is intended to be international and multinational. What does that mean with regard to Hamas, though? So what exactly happens to Hamas? So Hamas is disarmed. Now, therefore, what? See, that stuff's not specified. And I think because there's ambiguity around that, I think you're destined to nothing but more trouble. So I'm not, A for effort, I'm not optimistic about the eventual outcome, unless, of course, there is a deliberate and intense military effort, and the world media be damned, to exterminate Hamas and pull it up by the root and wipe it out.
Well, they're not going to agree to that.
It's not about agreement. Yeah,
well, I'm saying, but it can't be a part. So you're saying screw the agreement and just take them out.
No, I think eventually that's what's going to happen. I think.
Oh yeah.
I think they're
when they violate.
And that seems, to your point. I mean, that would make they should have specified that in the agreement. If this happens, right. And so
if I was advising Israel, I would have said you want that specificity so you can be justified. Now maybe Israel says I don't want that specificity because I want to be justified, right? I mean, I got to look at it from both ways. I'm just saying, I think this is an it show ready to happen.
I'm surprised that actually Netanyahu. I'm on the Israel front. I'm surprised that Netanyahu actually agreed. I'm looking at Salo here as I say this. Listen to me, Salo. I am surprised that Netanyahu agreed to this. Because
Salo thinks it was strategic,
he's been on the front. Well, everything's strategic. I mean, it wasn't.
No, what I'm saying is, I mean, Salo doesn't like Bibi.
No, and not because he's the Antichrist. It's because
what Candace say?
It's simply because a lot of leverage was applied by the Trump administration, at least according to all reports. And Netanyahu, but he was transparent. He's like, I'm skeptical about this whole thing. I mean, they've been around. Hamas has been, the government. Source of great chaos since 2007. I just don't see any of that changing.
I don't know. Let's go into that topic. But 275 terrorists, that's crazy to me.
Okay, so you're talking about boots on the ground, American boots on the ground over there. What about their boots on the ground here in Texas or in the United States? That is what's starting to concern me, and the ramifications of when, not if, when Hamas breaks this agreement and starts getting obliterated, as they say.
What do you mean? What they do here with us?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
because isn't that the eventual next step?
I hope not. I hope our federal government agencies are monitoring that. Looking at that. I hope our I hope our local agencies, law enforcement, have the that's why this whole trial is such a big deal. I mean, has the authority and the backing to do what they can, but then also it's up to the citizen. I believe in, I'm a huge Second Amendment advocate. I believe in responsible gun ownership, and part of that responsible gun ownership is training with your weapon. I do not buy a weapon if you're not going to train with it. And I'm not talking going plinking, plink, 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 and hit a little, where you're not moving, once a month or once every quarter or once a year, like you're qualifying for some, class. But I'm talking about training. This is something you do. You drive. You don't drive one time before you drive. You drive a lot. You drive on the roads first, then you drive on the highway, then you drive here, and then you put yourself in different situations so you can handle circumstances. Same thing with a weapon. You just have to. I mean, if you have to use your weapon, there's a lot going on. And so you just have to do your best to prepare for that. So, I mean, look, the Second Amendment, I think, helps us, too, as a country. I really do. I mean, we get into an argument about it later on. But I think that it keeps a lot of other countries in check, to be honest with you. They're not gonna storm our beaches. They're not in certain states. I guess maybe in other states they will, but I don't know. I'm just a big Second Amendment guy, and I believe in responsible gun ownership, but I also believe in understanding your weapon, training with your weapon, being responsible with your weapon, being safe with your weapon, and then hopefully never having to use your weapon, God willing. That's the ultimate goal.
That's very positive.
Well, no, I think it's realistic.
But that's very positive, and I want that to be the truth. But
What's your worry? What's your?
I don't know, like
worried?
that when they start trying to get rid of Hamas, that. And I know that way back when everybody would say you're anti-Muslim and Islam, blah, blah, you know, there's a separation between the terrorists and
I think I know where you're going, Karen. Look, I mean, and if I'm not correct, if I don't, correct me. This is why that topic today of Islam and in Islamic communities
the
growing,
huge populations
because
in Texas.
a lot of terrorists funnel through that,
Yes,
right? They funnel
absolutely.
through these. And look, if anybody says, "Oh, that's Islam," no, it's not. It's just realistic. I mean, if you have an Islamic, militant organization that has bad intentions, they're going to go through an Islamic community
That's right.
to infiltrate into an area. It happens. I mean, the UK is done. I mean, without a civil war, unfortunately. I mean, if you look at the Lebanon experience, Lebanon, Syria, Egypt, all used to be Christian. But when you look, I've had to study Islam. We have to talk about this. I mean, look at Dearborn, Michigan. Look at Houston, like you talked about. And I'm glad Governor DeSantis seems like he's doing the same thing. I think there should be a national law that says there's no other law that rules our country other than the Constitution. That's not crazy. That's just the way it is. You can't even own property in Mexico if you're not a Mexican.
That's right.
I mean, if you don't have a Mexican citizenship. I mean, so there should be nothing. And there is absolutely a movement in the past. When I was district attorney, there was a movement to establish Sharia courts, meaning that they're going to circumvent the Constitution, that yes, the Constitution applies to you, but because of our quote-unquote religion, which, with all due respect, it's really a political movement wrapped in a religion, right? And we've talked about that on the show before. The Sharia would determine the repercussions and the laws and the everything, punishment, to our community. So our community is different. That's why that whole epic community in Texas, they got shut down, thank God, because a lot of people spoke up. And we just need to talk about it. Churches need to talk about this. And we can have just an objective, it can be passionate, but respectful and, appropriate conversation about ideas. And so you have to study. I've studied it. Georgia studied it. You have to understand that Islamic is an imperialistic movement, meaning that they were trying to set up one caliphate under one caliph. That is the way it is. I mean, if you look at it, even Islamic apologists will tell you the same thing. And if you study what the Sharia would be implemented and how it treats women and women's rights, and look, even though I'm a Christian and I believe, but I support people that if they want to live the LGBT lifestyle, they have the freedom to do that. That is what the Constitution stands for. I just never wanted it pushed on children. But if an adult wants to do that, they should not be harmed. In these countries, they are harmed. It's not that they're trying to be, like, the Christian tries to persuade you, the person following, the hadiths and all that will do other stuff to you if you live that lifestyle. That is a fact. And that's why I've always supported Bill Maher. He's been militant, speaking of militant, about talking about this. And even when Bill Maher and I disagreed on many, many other things, I agreed with his position on this because he educated himself on this, and he would go at it with other progressives, quote unquote, on this issue. And he goes, look, Christians don't do this, but the Islamic ideology supports this, and he would define and talk about it. So we just need to talk about that. Your concern, I think, Karen, if I was right, I get it. I think that's reasonable concern. But regardless, Dearborn, Michigan shouldn't look the way it does. It just shouldn't. Yeah. And if anyone doesn't know
it doesn't look like America.
If you watch the videos from Dearborn, Michigan, and where they're setting up their civic government now, you would not think you're in America. And that should not happen anywhere in the United States of America. If you don't like it, then don't come here. Then establish your own country or go back to where you want. And that doesn't just apply to them. And look, I'm of Lebanese descent. Lebanon was all Christian. Now it's predominantly Muslim and Islamic. I mean, so that's why you say grandfather in Arabic in Jiddo. My Jiddo came over and got stuck here when he was a kid in the early 1900s. There was a very strong Christian presence over there. Not anymore. Why? Syria, Egypt, right, George? I mean, so I'll let you take over from here, but that's
because it is a political system. That's why. I mean, it's political system wrapped up in religious garb. It truly is, and it's been that way from the very beginning. And people need to understand that it's a system of governing. It's got a legal code, and Sharia is at the center of it. Now that is not to say that there are plenty of Muslims who are not Sharia compliant. I mean, that's true.
Sure.
But a significant portion of them are, and so we're talking.
What would happen to them back in their home country, though?
When it all began?
No, if they were not Sharia compliant in an Islamic.
Oh, of course, that's right.
Theocracy.
That's exactly in a true Islamic theocracy, you have to be Sharia compliant. That's the point. And there are serious consequences, including death and incarceration and other horrible things. And so it is a political system, and it is all consumptive, and it does not at the core recognize any other law, including the Constitution of the United States. I happen to believe that perhaps one of the most dangerous groups right now in the country is a group that's flying low on the radar under the cover of civil rights, and that's CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. This is a group, and Andy McCarthy has not only been one of the prosecutors. You got to go back to 2007, 2008, when the Holy Land Foundation case, that should be studied, and we should talk about that, particularly in the context of legalities, because it's got to go back to that. They are what's called a non-indicted co-conspirator. And the Judge Jorge Solis pointed that out in great detail. And CARE pushed back and said, no, we shouldn't be. And he said, the hell you shouldn't. There is considerable evidence from the United States government that CARE is, shall I say, in bed with terroristic organizations, including Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas. And so this has been documented. This has been the case for 17, 18 years, and CARE is still out there. And under the cover of civil rights, representing Muslims. And every time anybody says anything about Islam in a public square, here comes CARE to repudiate them, to call them bigots, call them xenophobes, call them racist. And so this is a front group for terror. And the idea that they get cover in the United States under civil rights, we got to fix that.
Okay,
Seriously.
We got to take a break right now. But I have a couple more questions before we move on. But stick with us. Go on social media, because we continue at 10 o'clock for the after show. We'll be right back with Sidebar.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
1200 WOAI. So important. Get on social media so that you can join us on the after show starting at 10 o'clock. We will continue the conversation, but there are two attorneys general in the news. One, of course, is Letitia
Wouldn't it be
James.
Attorney Generals?
I don't know. Is it?
Attorneys General.
Attorneys General.
It's
Attorneys General.
Attorneys, so it's attorneys in general is the
In
singular?
general.
All right, I'll trust George.
No, it's attorneys general.
Attorneys, all right.
And both of them are, one of them is a candidate, the one in from Virginia who had all these texts that I want you, if you can, go into detail about that. But Letitia James, wasn't she the same one that was trying to accuse President Trump of all of these things when it came to the mortgage fraud? And now the mortgage fraud is like turned around and...
What have I said before? Be careful the world you help create, because someday you may have to live in it. Now,
wow.
You can't make this stuff up.
Well, I don't believe in that type of, well, because you did it to me, I'm going to do it to you. Look, she's charged with knowingly making false statements on a federal loan. She's allegedly said that New Jersey was her primary residence. She indicated that was her primary residence. Allegedly, they say allegedly that it's not her primary residence. And the motive for doing that is to get a slightly better mortgage rate or whatever, like 3% versus 3.18%. I think some bean counter figured out that it's like $18,000 over a 30-year loan or whatever it is. But still, it seems petty, but it's still a violation. It's a crime. Now, I'm interesting. As a defense attorney, as a former prosecutor, I have both perspectives on it. You have
But
to think
isn't
about,
an attorney general somebody that should know the law? Maybe.
It's not about should knowing the law. I don't think she's going to say, I didn't know that I couldn't put that down as my main residence and lie about things. No, she's going to know that. It's whether she intended to do it. So it's going to come down to the mens rea. And then it's going to come down to the evidence that they have to prove and establish her mens rea. Because if she did it not knowingly, and if the mens rea is knowingly and intentional versus negligent and reckless, well, then there could be an argument that, yes, it happened, but Like in a self-defense situation, you're saying, yes, I did this force, but it's justified.
Right.
So there's a justification for the, so there may be not an excuse, but a justification. Now, the evidence I would want to know of her knowingly making a false statement is, was there a loan officer that said, hey, I pointed this out to her? Her signature's here. So signature in and of itself is going to say, hey, you're deeming yourself knowledgeable of what you signed.
Yeah.
But we all know you put a bunch of papers in front of people, whoever signed a mortgage. It's like, I don't know what I'm signing half the time. That's one thing.
That's true,
that somebody
yes.
pointed out. Is this portion that they're talking about in bold letters? Are there text messages justifying or not justifying? Are there emails? Are there witnesses, the person who presented the documents to her? Are they saying, okay, Ms. James, hear this, and what this is saying is this is your primary residence. Are you saying this is going to be your primary residence? Yes, ma'am, I am going to say that. Okay, now you have a live witness that's going to establish that to corroborate the signature on the paper versus the signature on the paper saying, yeah, it might have been negligent, but I didn't read the fine print. So that would be an argument against the mens rea of her intentionally doing this. So, I mean, to me, I dissected this 10 different ways. But ultimately, would she be prosecuted for would they have looked for this if she hadn't gone after Trump? But the hypocrisy to me is her sitting on the front row when Trump was there smirking and her saying, no one's above the law. Okay, well, Miss James, no one's above the law. And if you didn't do this, then you deserve to be acquitted and you deserve to be exonerated. But it seems to me there's a colorable movement here because your signature's on this paper. Now, what your defense is, I'm all in for it. And she is presumed innocent, and I believe that. So I don't gloat in this. You know how I feel about that. Proverbs 24 says, don't gloat when your enemy falls. So I don't gloat in this. I don't wish this on anybody else because I understand the gravity of the justice system. But if she did this wrong, then she needs to be held accountable because she has set the standard that these things are held accountable. Now, how is it ironic? And George, I want you to take over the rest of the time. But to Trump's case, there was no quote-unquote victim because all these banks were paid back.
I know, and they said everything was fine.
In her case, she's made every payment. There's no victim.
Yep, but...
Okay, so
But-
the similarities are ironic, right? You can't, as you said, George, you can't make this stuff up. Right?
It's total mirror image. So she allegedly misrepresented property details to secure favorable loan terms, and that is exactly the same thing that she took Trump through when she went after him. And of course, no one is above the law. But this was a referral to Bondi from the Federal Housing Financing Director, Pulte. I think William Pulte is his name. And he specifies in there in clear language, and that ultimately, we haven't seen the grand jury indictment. We haven't seen those particulars ultimately. But we have a letter from Pulte that she had literally falsified records. That was
The indictment hasn't been released?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
So that has not, maybe it's happened. I haven't seen it. I looked for it. But that she had falsified records, that's the terminology that he used, that she, in order to obtain loans from her home in Virginia. Now, she's the New York State Attorney General. She has to have a residence there. But she, the intent is that they claim is that she was trying to do the same thing in Virginia. And so having homes there, and then there was a another 5-unit apartment. So I don't think there's just one property at issue here, Nick. So I think it's going to be a bit of a tall leap to say I didn't know or my intent was X, Y, and Z other than what they're claiming.
If there are similar signatures on similar paperwork, or
I don't know. There's a trail. What if there's a fact pattern? I think.
Yeah, well, that's different. All that plays into it.
I think that's the rub. So, it remains to be seen. But yeah, talk about living in the world that you've created.
But there's also the issue of the interim U.S. attorney that initially didn't want to bring these charges, and that U.S. attorney was replaced.
Yeah.
That's not illegal. Trump has absolutely the legal authority to do that, and they replaced that U.S. attorney. I think his name was Eric Siebert or something like that. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly. With a lady named Lindsay Halligan, who was Trump's personal attorney. My understanding, someone correct me if I'm wrong, is she's had no prosecuting experience before. She's never been a state prosecutor. She's never been a federal prosecutor. She's never defended criminal cases.
no real estate law, I understand also.
She knows real estate law? Or no? Oh,
no.
Okay,
No.
so I understand she's the same interim U.S. attorney that's prosecuting Comey. So, I mean, look, if you're a
But nor
defense
does she
attorney,
need
you're
it.
going to have a field day with that.
She doesn't need a real estate law background for it.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
No. But prosecuting background would help.
But again, I think you got to, and this is similar to the one of the Fed governors, Lisa Cook. We just didn't know. Could that be a defense that you just simply didn't know? I mean, is that truly believable? If there's more than one occurrence, and I think as with Lisa Cook, there's more than one occurrence here. So some of this goes back 20 years. as I said, it's not just the New York versus the Norfolk, Virginia primary residence issue. It's this 5-unit, this 5-unit apartment complex that she had represented as a 4-unit, and if it's less units, you get more favorable terms. A quadruplex versus a 5-family unit. She purchased it in Brooklyn and claimed that it only had 4 units, and she did that in both building permit applications. And she has a bunch of mortgage documents, and so they had a bit of a treasure trove here to show a pattern. This isn't an instance, but it's a pattern. That's why
a pattern meaning that she's done this multiple times.
Yes, that's correct.
So she has other.
That's correct.
Okay.
So the one is the primary residence that brought up the main issue of, hey, you live in New York, you're required to have residence there,
Okay.
but she did a claim for residence in Norfolk, Virginia. So that's issue 1, and then the issue 2 is, and I think in 2001, if I have the date correctly, is this 5-unit apartment complex in Brooklyn that she claimed was a 4-unit for preferential loan terms.
If she did that, that's so stupid. I mean, how can you not? I mean, you can figure that out so easily.
Thinking you're not going to get caught.
I pulled this from the letter from James to Bondi.
Oh, got it. So
this
you've not
has to be
verified
entered.
that.
It would seem to me this would have to get entered into the claim, into the referral, the criminal referral, because that's what they based it on. And then he said she claimed that a 5-unit was a 4-unit in building permit applications and mortgage documents. And so, again, a pattern.
Well, I want to know why Eric Siebert didn't want to prosecute this case. I mean, I have questions. You know, I don't know. I'm not. Look, I don't care for her. I don't know her personally, but I don't care for her politics. I don't believe that she's a responsible attorney general, and I think she's politicized that office. She ran on the fact she was going to quote unquote get Trump.
But surely not.
I know.
Surely not because you're surprised that somebody in an attorney general's office would be motivated by political reasons.
Do you know one attorney general that's not? I mean,
should I say? I'll go. Great answer.
Political reasons is different.
And I should have said partisan. I should have said partisan reasons. Yeah. Because that's the world we live in. I was trying to go somewhere with this. I have no idea, but that's the world we live in. Where, this is why whenever there's a judgment against Trump, it's a Biden appointed judge, an Obama appointed judge.
I hate that.
I know.
It incenses me, but that's part of our part of our national politics.
It shouldn't be. I
agree.
I want the day where Lady Justice puts back on the blindfold.
And I wonder if we've crossed the Rubicon now, and now we're at a point where it's like we can't. We literally can't because we've trained ourselves now.
But people justify it. That's the part that irritates me. The right justifies it. The left justifies it. Everybody justifies it because when Trump's accused, I can't believe it, he's accused. But then when somebody else is accused and everyone gets happy, I don't like, see some of these. I haven't watched any TV this week, but the people they celebrate. I'm so happy. I know I shouldn't, but I'm so happy. I'm not. I really, because I know the gravity.
I'm doing it too, and I'll tell you where I read it because whenever
You're doing what?
This type of analysis. Looking at it through the prism of whatever the partisan affiliation is of that particular jurist. You read an Obama judge rules against Trump. Oh, of course, it's partisan politics. A Biden judge rules against Trump. Oh, of course it is. And then you read a Trump-nominated judge, appointed judge, rules against Trump. And then you're inclined to say, well, then it must be true. See, we're making those assessments based on partisan affiliation. That's a problem.
And then the partisan media is, Trump gets in trouble, no one's above the law. And then she gets in trouble, it's abuse of the justice system. And it happens on both sides.
James
but think about it, it's on both sides of it. And we need to get away from that. That's why, and I know people say, Ego, stop doing that, you're being too much of this. No, I'm not being too much of anything. I'm being too much of a constitutionalist, maybe. I mean, because I was in these positions where I had to make prosecutorial decisions and death penalty decisions. And nothing came into my purview in my mindset other than the facts and the law. That's it. And can I substantiate it? Because in the end, when the title's gone, all you have is your integrity. And then in the end, I have to stand before one person, and it's going to be God, not anybody in this BS world. And so I got to answer for my stewardship. That's the way I govern my life.
We're in the symptom now. This is why the neo-Marxist long march movement through the American institutions has even corrupted the legal system, it seems to me, where now they've corrupted it so much that we actually we distrust all of these authorities. We distrust the leaders of our institutions, from medical establishments to legal institutions to judicial institutions to academic. Everything's in question. And this is a symptom of the corruption of the system by this neo-Marxist worldview, it seems to me, that has tainted and corrupted American politics. And I'm always curious, as an analyst, as a citizen, as a believer, as a Christian, I'm wondering, how do we get back, Nico? How do we get back where we're no longer, analyzing reality through that lens?
At least Letitia James hasn't wished death on the children of any of her. We haven't had any time to talk about this, but I guess that's
we can
why.
talk about, we can jaw it up for a few minutes after, so if you want to talk about that, and we'll try to take some of your questions also, we can do that as well. But I really want to caution people about falling into this trap that George and I have been discussing about tribalism, of being, I don't gloat in Comey, and if they've done things wrong, then we should say, okay, we want accountability, appropriate accountability, because it's never going to end. Don't be afraid to stand for truth against your own side if the truth supports it and the law supports it. That's it. That's how you break the cycle, by the way, when you encourage people to stand on the side of truth. And that's, by the way, that's God's character, because he cannot lie. So, all right, guys, we're going to jump on for 20 minutes after or so. I got some place to be, so it's going to be a shorter after show, but hopefully an intense one. And thank you for joining us. Please share these conversations with someone you think may benefit from them. Enjoy your families. God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
The preceding show was paid for by the LaHood Norton Law Group. The views and opinions expressed.
Okay, so could you give, I've had little blurbs here and there, and I first thought that it was a mistake when I heard that this candidate for Virginia's Attorney General they found text of him like wishing that the children of his opponents were dead, or what was it? What was the deal?
There is
Jay Jones. Jay Jones.
Jay, like J-A-Y?
Yes, J-A-Y. There is a election, going on right now, a race going on for the governor of Virginia, and indeed the attorney general as well. That's ongoing right now, and there's an election that's going to be held in November. And that's this November. And so Abigail Spanberger is running against the incumbent lieutenant governor, Winsome Sears, who's also running for governor. And up until these developments that we're about to chat about here, Spanberger's been surprisingly, astonishingly ahead quite a bit, even though Glenn Youngkin, who's not running again, is quite popular. Yeah. His polling has been somewhat mixed. It's been neutral to positive, but it's very clear that Winsome Sears isn't sort of riding those coattails to re-election here, and so it's been a bit of a fight. And unfortunately, Spanberger, at least from my view, because I think Spanberger's policies are crazy, and they call her moderate, so I don't find her particularly moderate. I think the people who actually do this for a living said that she voted for Trump a whole 8% of the time or something like that, 92% against Trump. That gives you an idea of where she stands. Yeah. So I don't think she's a moderate, but they call her and others the mod squad, as opposed to the other squad, as the moderate squad in the Democrat Party. That tells you 92% against Trump. So that's what's going on broadly. And then entered Jay Jones. So Spanberger's basically coasting, it seems to me, to a win, if you believe the polls. And then this happens, and what's been discovered is that this guy who's running for Attorney General, Jay Jones, is, shall we say, crazy. And so we have texts from 2022 where he is literally wishing death, fantasies, I should say, about assassinating a Republican lawmaker. At the time, he was the Speaker of the House. And so he's fantasizing about 2 bullets to his head and apparently did so. Not apparently, but they have the text that he did so on multiple occasions. Rather murderous. And so when he was confronted by it, he actually doubled down. And it wasn't until all this heat amassed around him that he decided to issue what seemed to me was a rather tepid apology. Yeah. So that's where we are. And Spanberger has refused to distance herself, has refused to not
Look, Virginia gets what it gets. That's it. I mean, pain is a good motivator. So Virginia's set up, people to know, the governor and the AG can only serve 1 term. They can't serve consecutive terms. So Youngkin can run again. He just can't run consecutive, which is to me ridiculous.
That's what I was wondering
Weird.
about.
I mean, if they did 2 terms, that's fine. I mean, but whatever. Or if it's a 1 6-year term like they do in some areas, I don't know, man. I'm mixed on that because, you got to establish policy. That's what China says. All right, Trump, you're going to be here for what, 3 more years? I'm here forever. So whatever, as long as I want to be here. And so you just have to wait out a president that you don't like if you really think about it. And that's why Trump 2.0 is doing what he does internationally. But it says, I believe in free speech, truly. And so he can say these things, as vile as they are. But doesn't mean he should be attorney general. I don't want an attorney general that says shit like this. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on politically. He's referring to gun control. And then he doubles down and says, her kids should die in her arms and maybe she'll change her mind. Excuse me? Fuck you. I mean, there's just no other way to say that one.
Yeah.
I mean, because I deal with death, and I've had my brother, not in my arms, but in my driveway. And even though it wasn't in these kind of circumstances, it was gun, quote unquote, is violence using a gun. And I couldn't be I couldn't be a stronger Second Amendment supporter. And so this insane, illogical, stupid, unsupported anti-gun stance, because it's not supported by the data. It's not. Drives me nuts. But to say that her kid should die in her arms, that is so vile. Text 3 bullets, 2 bullets, 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. You're gonna put this guy Gilbert with Pol Pot? These people are rabid murderers, which seems like you fit right in with them. Who do you kill? Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. I mean,
and he continues. Spoiler, he says, put Gilbert in a crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives 2 bullets every time. And there's a pattern. Speaking of patterns, I mean,
look, man. If you vote this dude in, Virginia, go to hell. I'm sorry. And if you, I didn't know. Well, then no. Then don't bitch. Do not complain when people like this are in office. Don't complain to me when Bexar County elected Joe Gonzalez as DA.
Right.
Because, and this is what you get. You get police officers that are afraid to do their job. Yeah. You know why San Antonio? You want to know why San Antonio is the unsafest city in Texas? It's the unsafest urban city in Texas. San Antonio, Texas. Why? Because you have a bullshit, wussy, worthless DA that we have here. And then you have that culture, that ideology trickle down to the immoral action of what's happening in this. I mean, I'm telling you, I can't get more passionate about this.
It's a culture and an ideology. Listen to that. It is a mentality. I'd like to think, I think maybe one. Salo, you can look me up on this. Is there anybody in the National Democrat Caucus who's condemned this? And Abigail Spanberger was in a debate this past week. You should look it up. It was an interesting debate. Winsome Sears repeatedly challenged her on this. The moderator, kudos to the moderator, challenged her, gave her 5 different occasions for her to repudiate these things or to say, this guy shouldn't be running. Why couldn't she say that? He really shouldn't be running for Attorney General of the state of Virginia. She couldn't say that.
But George, how many people watched that debate?
Let the people decide.
How many people watched that debate? How many people watch that debate? Because nobody wants to watch that. They don't care. Because of tribalism, we just agree with our tribe. That's the problem.
But Sid online says, isn't it ironic how the anti-gunners are all about putting bullets in the heads of those that they don't want around?
Great point. That's an excellent point.
That's right.
As they're protected on the higher levels by guns, by the way.
That's right.
Then again, you're not going to win that debate. You're not going to win the debate for an objective analysis of the gun violence argument when you compare it to violence or not violence. I'm sorry, death when it comes to either alcohol or vehicular deaths. You're just not going to win that argument. It's not even close. It's triple on alcohol, more than double on vehicular deaths, and nobody's trying to stop, limit vehicles or alcohol. So save your fake faux rage. Even though one death is too much, I got it. But if you want to really stop death, then you worry about our food, you worry about medicine, you worry about hospital beds, because the hospitals are the 3rd leading causes of death. Not what you went into the hospital for, the hospital situation. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot. If we're worried about life, quote unquote life, then let's talk about that. And everything's on the table. And guns, by the way, the way that they're talking about it is way down on the totem pole. I promise you that.
And we know what it's about. It's not about the gun. It's about the amassment of power.
Of course.
That's it. That's the ability of people to no longer, the inability of people to defend themselves. That's really what it's about. Look, this is a culture, a mentality that has consumed the Democrat Party. This isn't a fringe. These people, even to the point of not repudiating fantasies about murder, that's how important power is. That's how important power it is to her. And I went back to the sections because I thought it was stunning to me. So she was asked to condemn those statements and to make a stalwart statement about whether the man should be in a race or not. And she said, quote, "At this point, as we move forward to voters, this is Spanberger. The voters now have this information that was withheld from them, presumably for political reasons. But the voters now have the information. It's up to the voters to make an individual choice based on this information," right? Then the moderator says, Miss Spanberger, I understand what you're saying about the voters, but for you yourself, do you continue to endorse Jay Jones? 15 seconds, yes or no? Spanberger, we're all running our individual races. I believe my opponent has said that about her lieutenant governor nominee. In other words, that Winsome Sears says, look, I'm my own individual. I'm not Glenn Youngkin, right? And so she took that statement as cover for her now to say, well, we're all running our individual races. I'm not Jay Jones. But we know what Jay Jones said. And she says, it's up to everybody to make their own decision. I'm running my race to serve Virginia, and that's what I intend to do. And she kept doing that over and over again. If you cannot say that individual was condoning murder of a Republican Speaker of the House, and that is reprehensible, that has no place in the state of Virginia, and I don't support that in any way, shape. If you can't say that in a situation like that, what is it going to take? That's the point we're making here. And this is a culture, a mentality inside the Democrat Party. You may not like Republicans if you're listening. That's fine. There's a lot of Republicans I don't like. There's shit Republicans have done I really don't like.
Yes, Saulo.
Okay, that's really not the issue. We ought to really join hands across party lines, right, on issues like this. Murder is wrong. Murder against your political opponents, truly no place in the American political landscape. This is disgusting and should be repudiated by every politician. You don't see that kind of clarity. You see a lot of sort of hand waving. Nancy Pelosi was asked these questions. She did the same thing. She skated on it. Well, it's about the people of Virginia.
So what do the polls say about Jay Jones? Is he still way up there as the winner?
He was ahead, but he's taking a significant hit. But look,
I pray that the polls are wrong. I do. I pray that the polls are wrong. Yeah. Virginia, man, what after Youngkin? To me, it reminds me of the Book of Judges in Israel. Hey, I'm talking about Israel, Salo. Pay attention. I mean, and how they kept going up and down and up and down, and they had to have 12 different judges save them, and they repented, and it wasn't true repentance because it was remorse. Like, oh, sorry, I got caught, Lord. We're sorry, but you weren't really sorry because you weren't sorry enough to change, which is repentance, right? So there wasn't a true contrition because contrition, godly sorrow, is part of repentance. And then rejection, not of you, but of the behavior. And then, of course, profession. You profess what God says about you. Confess, but what God says about you, not what you say about yourself or your circumstances. So and over and over again, 12 different judges had to save their ass from bullshit repentance. Well, I mean, that's how I feel like Virginia's a roller coaster. Before Youngkin, they had a governor that was nuts and wanted to talk about postpartum, abortions. And I didn't say that. Look at the video. He was on a damn podcast. I mean, Forget about my translation. Forget about your translation. Watch the damn video. It's on video, not just on audio. And you had that type of mindset that Youngkin, and then Youngkin does a great job from what I can see from a distance. And then now they're opening. It's like, well, we gave your side a chance. Let's go back to shit. All right, I guess. Well, then don't bitch about it, man. I mean, so this guy should not be. This guy should be. Look, this is so irresponsible. It's irresponsible for anybody, but it is grossly irresponsible for someone in that type of a position of power. It's grossly irresponsible, and it shouldn't be tolerated. And if a Republican said it, I would repudiate them and their grandma for having them. I don't care. I mean, just to me, it's that type of intense rejection of this mindset that I have.
And he was well ahead of his time. I would, at the time, if I was alive, I wouldn't have agreed with him. But H.L. Mencken, who's an author and a social critic who happened to be an atheist at the time, said, no one ever went broke underestimating the stupidity of the American people. And I take
say that again.
No one ever went broke underestimating the stupidity of the American people. That's H.L. Mencken. And as I said at the time, I don't know that I would agree with him then. Now, I mean, I've been complaining about the deliberate subsidized effort to turn our youngest generations into complete idiots. And look, you have to give Democrat Marxists credit for this. They've managed to gut American educational institutions. Americans don't know anything about civics. We don't appreciate it. We don't know our history. We don't cherish and appreciate and express gratitude for the founders and the great sacrifices that they went through to forge this great nation. It's stunning to me that the average 18, 19, 20-year-old, I realize their brains aren't fully developed, but that they're developed.
They're not fully developed. Why wouldn't they fully be developed?
They're actually 18? Not. I don't. Well, not at 18. I don't think your prefrontal cortex is fully developed at age 18. Believe it or not, but at least for males.
There were some people in the Civil War back in the day, and James Madison was an international embassy.
You make a great argument for the power of 13. The power of nurture versus nature.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
True. But I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, brother. It's my fault.
I don't know what I was going to say.
Well,
it must not have been that important.
No, 17, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds not having a full brain like Saulo.
Yeah, Nico, I can't believe, and I'll say this and I'll shut up, because I can't believe that even then that they can't stop. See, if they learned a little bit about American history, actual American history, they would say, if I criticize America, if I criticize American politicians, those in power, I can criticize the president of the United States and not go to jail. You can't do that in a lot of countries. You really, literally can't. And a lot of them are Islamic theocracies. But here in America, you can do that. That says something about the country. The idea that you can literally say nasty things about the people at the highest peaks of power and not suffer reprisal. Mm-hmm. That says something about the country. Does it not follow then that you will reverse that if you contribute to the stifling of free speech? And if you push policy? This isn't that hard. But we've lost our ability to think rationally. We don't teach that anymore. And all we do is we teach tribalism, as Nico said, with a visceral hatred. And that kind of anger, and everybody will tell you, when you get angry and when you lose control of your emotions, your brain loses the ability to think clearly. It's a chemical reality. And yet we teach this and subsidize this bullshit in the American classroom. Sermon's over.
Karen, any comments? Anything we need to address before we wrap it up?
I haven't been reading because I've been listening.
Don't listen.
But
you need to read. You're
I want to say, but I just want to say, just one more question. What do you think about the people that are saying, let New York vote in their new communist mayor, let Virginia find out what's going to happen if Jay Jones gets in, let this happen? I mean,
versus what?
Versus
what? Versus what? I mean, it
Cuomo
sucks.
winning, or
well, versus
what's
what? How are you going to change that? What are you going to do about it?
Right.
What are you going to do about it? Unless you want to dump a shit ton of money to educate people. But what needs to happen, people need to highlight Dearborn, Michigan.
Yes.
That's what you need to do. You need to educate people.
And Houston, and Dallas. Yes.
All of them. People need to. You want to spend money? You're a billionaire, right-wing conservative dude or lady? Then spend money doing that, because ignorance is not bliss. It's dangerous. Hosea 4:6 says, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." And then, so do I want to let them perish? No, I don't. Because that's one more piece of real estate that we lost. We've already lost the intellectual real estate of the people that voted those folks in, but now you're actually losing ground. So we can talk about that. That's a longer episode, a longer show. I got it, Saulo. Yeah, bro. Holy shit. We got to go. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We got to go some things. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful weekend.
Text radio to 88007. That's RADIO to 88007. Again, that's radio to 88007. Presented by Lifestyles Unlimited. I'm Jeff Davis with Just a Thought. When I think of all the pettiness, the nasty comments, the frustrations of unhappy people on social media, I'm reminded of General...